We're using our pen tool to make some simple shapes. We're going to take this image that we've opened and we're going to create shapes over it in order to make it kind of a cartoon look. That's something that we might use later on as we're creating logos for our websites or for our games. All right, I chose this orange color here in the pepper, or yellow color. And the way I did that is I selected my foreground color down here on my color picker. Not selecting off of this palette, I'm actually copying from the pepper. And so if you'd like to zoom in, you can do a Control+ to zoom in. You can kind of see I can copy a lighter yellow here, or a lighter green here, darker green, darker yellow. I'm going to choose a darker yellow to start off with here. So tap where you want, and that adds that in here to your color palette. It also gives it to you as an option up here on your options bar. So let's go ahead and choose that color to work with for right now. We copied it right from our pepper. And with the shape option selected here, we're going to create a simple shape of our pepper. And this can look very cartoonish. It does not have to be perfect by any means. It can be very angular. Kind of think of like Andy Warhol kind of cartoon, more abstract shapes rather than trying to make this look like a photograph. And we're just making this the simple shape of the pepper. And so close up your shape by clicking in the same spot where you started and then hit enter. And when I hide my pepper, you can see this is really what I want right here. It's just a simple shape of the pepper. The triangle is one that I was just using as an example in a prior video because the pen tool can be used to just make some simple shapes. And that's what we're doing with this project. All right. So I've made that. I'm going to go ahead and bring my pepper back. I'm going to hide that shape that I just made by clicking on the eye next to it in that layer. And the next thing I want to copy is the stem. Here's where you might want to zoom in with a Control+. And now I want to use the darker green in here. So go back to my color picker, hover off with my eyedropper tool, and tap in the color of green that you would like. And then click OK. So I just chose it by tapping in the stem and clicking OK. Now when I come up here to my options bar, I have the green that I just chose on my options. I can come back down here to my pen and quickly trace now the stem. And you can kind of, make it as weird as you like, but just kind of try and trace kind of a shape of the stem. And again, I can't see now to trace here, so a way to get around that is to come over to your opacity setting right over here on your layers panel and make that a little more transparent so that you can see through it. All right, so now I can actually see through to the stem that I'm tracing. And then when I'm done, I can go ahead and turn that opacity back up. It's at 40% now. I'm going to bring it back up to 100. And now when I show the rest of my pepper, let me fill it in with the, you see what happens here. This is the cool thing about this project. Let me show you what we're doing here. As I zoom out, what I've done here, I've gone up to the options bar and now I've kind of flipped these colors. So select the layer. I'm selecting that stem layer. I'm going to come back up here to fill and choose the green for my stem. I'm going to come in here to the shape of my pepper and go back to that orange. But it's good to know those things that happen in our classes where it's like, oh, that's a problem. No, it's an opportunity to learn how to fix a problem. So just kind of know that if your color gets kind of weird here, if somehow it's reverting back to a prior color, you can always come in, select the layer that you're working on, and make it the color that you need it to be. All right? And you can always do that by going up here to the fill. It will show recent colors that you've used. Okay? All right, we're almost done. We have the two basic shapes, but what I'd like to do now with this is to really grab the highlight colors in here. So we're going to add in the light yellow of the pepper and the light green in the stem. So let's start with the light yellow and the pepper first. And again, go to color picker. Tap into the very light yellow, click OK, and then you'll have that option on your options bar, and then you can trace some of the little shapes to make this have a little more interest and a little more dimension in your overall finishing graphic here. All right, for the grade, I would like you to at least choose to trace at least 5 of these shapes to give it a little bit more interest and a little more dimension in your overall graphic, okay? So at least 5, but if you want to get more detailed than that, that's totally fine. And then do the same thing to the stem. Again, hiding areas as you need to, making areas opaque or translucent as you need to. And then, yeah, again, the last part would be just grabbing the lighter greens in the stem. They're a little harder to find, but I think if you look hard enough, you can kind of grab those. And at least put a couple little highlights on the stem. There aren't as many areas to highlight on the stem, but try adding at least a couple. All right, and then go ahead and show everything. At the very end, yeah, here we go again with the most recent color coming in. Make sure and end with all of your colors kind of being where you want them to be. Again, my little stem shapes kind of got lost there, but again, really good practice as far as adding highlights in that end. All right, zooming out. Okay, the last thing I'd like you to do, I'd like you to put in some text in here and also add in a gradient background. Just kind of, it's a nice opportunity to kind of revisit some of the things that you've learned so far in this unit. So go to your background layer here, in this case it's our pepper picture, unlock it. So if you notice on that background layer, by default it's locked. That's why it has this little lock over here. To unlock it, you can just click that lock. And then we're going to go ahead and just add in kind of a background here with a gradient. All right, so the gradient tool and paint bucket are on the same button over here where you're doing a gradient. And remember, a gradient is just a mix of colors. In this case, our foreground and background pictures or colors. And however we drag our line is how that gradient is going to go. And then we can always add some simple text by clicking on our T tool. You can come down here and select a color, or you can go up to your options bar and choose some of the ones that you'd chosen before or created before from your pepper. I'm going to go ahead and just use a simple white. With the T tool selected, I've got some choices of font up here, regular, different styles there, and some, we can bend it as well. But I'm going to come in here and just kind of type in area, and it does fill in the lorem ipsum. And we can just go ahead and put in pepper, or if you want to name this guy some school appropriate name, you can do that. You can kind of move your text box around using the handles, and that's kind of it. I would just like you to kind of just show a quick review in that as far as adding some text and adding a gradient. And then with that, go ahead and click out. That's the pepper project. Hopefully you enjoyed using the pen tool.